Man, this took a while. I didn't think this would take this long to finish, but here we are. All of the weapon aspects maxed out and most of the bounties are done. Except this one. We didn't need to finish this one. Now on to the new tier list, which looks a lot more even, not gonna lie. A lot of weapons graduated from the OK tier, and I'm weirdly proud of that. Now to start off, let's just blitz through a few weapons. Guan Yu still sucks even with only 50% health reduction. Achilles gets 100 plus damage cast, which is just... why? Beowulf has a chunky charge now, which looks absolutely stupid. Lucifer's orbs do more damage when they explode, which is always nice. Arthur has a 40% damage reduction aura. Zeus gets increased damage on special, while Aegis gets it on normal attacks. Exegryph's extra ammo is nice, but it doesn't really change much. Faratha's speed and damage on special and Stygius' attack and movement speed bonus are meh. And the gauntlets, minus Demeter, don't really change much with dodge, deathmark, and maim damage increased respectively. I guess you could stack dodge with Hermes, but I don't exactly know how well that works. Oh, and speaking of, since we're talking about the gauntlets, you wanna see something cool? Yeah, Demeter's changed a lot compared to the other gauntlets. Before upgrading this, I couldn't exactly tell what it did, but now it has a nuke special. When it's fully charged, its special procs 5 times in one go, making it do way too much damage. This is, no contest, the best gauntlet in the game. Not to mention the fact that explosive upper makes it do more damage. It also works with kinetic launcher, and you can definitely tell that the special is proccing more than once. The projectile does do less damage than the explosive upper, but it is a nice ranged option to have. Do note the fact that kinetic launcher overrides explosive upper, since you can't exactly do a dash upper with the projectiles. This definitely makes the jump from okay to super fun. Moving on to the other new weapon in the super fun category, we have Rama. I've warmed up to using this bow, and man is this thing fun. Good damage, good horde clearing, and depending on what hammers you get, it changes the playstyle a bit. Twin shot, triple shot, and explosive shot make your main attack do a butt ton more damage. Concentrated, relentless, and piercing volley make your backup damage source into your main damage source. And point blank shot is just a nice damage increase. Other hammers that were not mentioned are not recommended since they're either too hard to use, not as good, or completely useless. Going down a bit, we have Chiron, my old favorite bow. To be fair, I still like it a lot. I'm a sucker for Dionysus builds, and this bow works really well with it. Even more so now with the special having more arrows. Granted, it has one less than every other bow, but still. This thing just shreds bosses and can now deal with hordes better than before. The only other thing I have to say is that Coronacht is better than this. For some reason, upgrading Coronacht gives you crit chance, which is stupid. With how cheap this weapon is and how easy the bows are in general, I would argue to say this is the best aspect in the game. All you need to do is get to Hades to unlock upgrades, beat the sisters with 5 different weapons, and you can use this thing to beat Hades and the Pact bounties. The only reason this isn't above Chiron is because I like playing around with the homing special more. And the fact that my Dionysus addicted part of my brain is hardwired to like this bow. A similar situation is happening at the other end with the guns. Eris, for some ungodly reason, has the ability to buff boons. And when I say buffing boons, I mean the damage buff applies to stuff like Zeus' lightning, Ares' doom, Dionysus' hangover, Poseidon's dash, Artemis' support fire, and the list goes on. I honestly don't know if this was a glitch, an oversight, or fully intended. Because from what I can tell, no other damage boosting effect does this. It completely breaks the scaling of a lot of boons and is really stupid. Eris is probably the uncontested best gun in the game, but I like Hestia more. This thing does 300 damage with my usual fiery presence and high confidence combo. Then almost 200 damage per shot afterwards. Add either crits or just straight up damage and you have a hand cannon. It feels nicer for me to use and it's super satisfying chunking health bars in one shot. Moving on over to the last aspect on this tier, we have Chaos. And I don't know how to feel about this weapon. It is a really good aspect, don't get me wrong. With the upgrades adding more projectiles, the shields flying around are great for area control. And shotgunning it does do great damage to bosses, but it's a special weapon. I mean, literally, a special attack-based weapon. There's a reason that I put Zeus and Beowulf ahead of Chaos. As soon as I throw that shield, I forget that it's bouncing around and I charge headfirst into enemies, wondering why my attack button isn't working. It happens a lot more often than you think, but if you don't really have the same problem I have, then have fun using this thing. It is really good. Dreadflight and Explosive Return make the special better, though from what I can tell, it doesn't affect the shadow shields. So maybe just default back to charge shots. Now let's go down a tier and talk about Hades. This thing has the same 150% damage increase that Achilles has, but the Mark of Death is less lenient. It really only boosts the damage of stabs and specials, though I have definitely found something stupid with Hades. Yeah, massive spin makes this thing cover the entire screen. Add quick spin to make it faster, and either crits, knockback, or deflect to add more stupidity, and you're going to have a good old time. Though the Mark of Death doesn't boost the cast damage, we do have 2 other weapons in this tier that are cast focused. Let's talk about Hera first, since all it does is have the cast drop faster. It really doesn't change a lot in normal rooms since you're going to kill things instantly anyways, but what it does help with is in boss fights, since it lets you do your burst damage more often. Also, it has a weird interaction with Demeter's cast shockwave. Loading in your cast triggers the shockwave so you can just spam the shockwave for safety and DPS. This works with Beowulf too if you were wondering, though honestly Beowulf does not need to be more broken. Now on to Poseidon, which just gets cast damage increase. The only reason I'm talking about this separately and not lumping it with other weapons we blitzed through at the beginning is because I want to thank the person who suggested to use Athena's cast. It's easy to hit, has decent splash, gives you good protection, and has good damage. Especially with the 50% extra cast damage that Poseidon has. Slap Zeus on attack and Artemis on special, and you can potentially get Lightning Phalanx and Lightning Rod. One gives Athena's cast more crowd control, and the other gives background lightning damage if you fail to get your cast back. Now, the same situation that happened with Corona, Chiron, Eris, and Hestia is happening again, this time with Poseidon and Nemesis. Nemesis has 30% crit rate after you use your special. Add Artemis on attack to have 45% crit rate, Aphrodite on special to get Heart Ren, Athena on cast for protection, Poseidon on your dash for more damage, and you have the build I normally use with Nemesis. It has a lot of DPS with this setup and overtakes Poseidon, but I like playing around with Poseidon more. The cast weapons are generally fun and Poseidon has a slightly different playstyle which makes it more interesting. And that's about it for all of the weapons. Now throw that all out of the window because we have a separate tier list for the Pact of Punishment. Since I've been doing bounties to get Titan's Blood, I've gotten somewhat used to the Pact and man, a lot of things have shifted around here and there. And when I'm talking about the Pact of Punishment, this is the setup I'll be using for every weapon. Since, you know, the Pact of Punishment is a custom thing. Anyways, Achilles, Beowulf, Zeus, Rama, Lucifer, Talos, Malphon, Exegriff, Varatha, Stygius, and Guan Yu stay in the exact same spots. And everything else shifts either slightly or majorly. So how about we start off with the major changes? Specifically Demeter. Now to be clear, Demeter does not scale badly with the Pact of Punishment. The only, and I mean only reason this thing is as low as it is because I suck at using the gauntlets. I am far too reckless with them to consistently beat the Pact, and it is not something that I'll be able to do for a while. Demeter out of all of the gauntlets has the best chance to do it, so it sits here at the top of amusing for now. It will definitely go up from here as I get better with the gauntlets. This is also the reason why Poseidon is moving up to fun. It's just far safer for me to use compared to Nemesis. Is Nemesis still the better DPS sword? Yeah, but it ain't gonna mean nothing if I keep dying before I beat Hades. Speaking of, there is a new weapon that's joining amusing and no surprise, it's a shield. These things are the best weapons for the Pact of Punishment, I swear. Aegis might not be as good as the other aspects, but it's still a shield. And that extra attack damage is still pretty good. Same reason for Chaos. It's a shield with a gimmick, though dangerous to me, is very good. Eris, Hestia, Coronac, and Chiron also gets flip-flop since effectiveness is a bit more necessary here. And that's about when the promotions come to an end, as we look over at the other end. Yeah, Arthur and Gilgamesh do not have it easy with the Pact active. And the biggest problem with them is speed. Unlike Beowulf and Rama, who are also slow weapons, Arthur doesn't exactly have a fast attack that you can use. You could spam your charge with Beowulf since it doesn't need to be charged all the way, and Rama has a special for quick backup damage in case your attack isn't fast enough. On the other end, Arthur's attack and specials are slow and a bit more risky with harder enemies, while the aura is not gonna help you much if you're already struggling. Though it's not that hard to beat the Pact of Punishment with Arthur, there's just better and safer options. Switching to the other struggle bus, we have Gilgamesh. Its attack is decently fast and does good damage. Weave in some dash strikes and the DPS isn't bad. So what's the problem with Gilgamesh? Well, it's something I realized after playing with it a bit more. Though you do have 4 dashes, it takes ever so slightly longer for them to recharge. And trust me when I say, it really throws you off when you're playing with it. Plus the fact that Maim is essentially suicide with the 50% damage bonus you give to opponents. You will only get 25% damage boost while they will get over 50 because of Maim and the Pact of Punishment. Which is just, no. All of this would have been fine in the normal game, but now with the Pact of Punishment active, well, that risk and reward situation that Maim has is just not worth it. Also, Merciful End is still the only build I can think of for this gauntlet, and it is definitely not happening very often. And I think with that, my tier list is set in stone, other than Demeter in the Pact tier list. To be fair, these are less tier list and more fun list, but then again, this is also still a tier list ranking which weapons are more fun to use than the others, so whatever. It doesn't matter! Play with what you like and have fun.